there is a job for every Jane, and there is a Jane for every job. And if you are serious about making money, if you are intentional about building a diverse workforce, your first priority is always to ask, where can I hire more women?
We're so excited
It's-
to have you.
I am happy to be here. This is the big people podcast.
Oh, I feel honored to hear that, the Big People podcast.
Yes,
Um,
big people podcast. Okay.
well, Pam, welcome to the Big People podcast. Yours. We are
you. Thank you.
we are so
Yes.
excited to have you. There is no way I could even begin to introduce you without bringing an injustice. So I'm going to ask you, please, to tell our listeners who you are and what you do.
Okay, no pressure at all. My name is Pamela. Um, I prefer Pam because I always say that my parents didn't know me; they just chose a name, and so now I have decided to reclaim it.
That's me.
um, yes, I love names. I think that the names we choose for ourselves are super important in how they guide us in what we do. And so it has taken me a long time, but now I like to think of myself as a cultural curator, specifically for events. And I'm also an experiential manager. I love cats. I have two gorgeous, super gorgeous, very adoring cats. They terrorize me, but I love them to death. And um, I enjoy a good weekday with a good cup of tea. That is Pam. Yes.
I love that. You have a cup of tea
Um,
now.
uh, yes, I do.
What?
In my idea mug. Um, I'm having some Fawson and Mason's tea, just something breakfasty for the morning. Yes.
I'm a very big fan of lemon and ginger. That's my go-to tea.
That's great. I have a friend who also almost always goes for lemon and ginger. Yeah.
Is she always ill?
I like to hope not, but yes, she's always sniffling.
One's favorite tea is lemon and ginger. I'm telling you now, Pam, it's because
Yeah.
we're always ill.
Always sniffling.
Pam, how did you start your career? Because I can tell already you've got a very deep philosophical kind of outlook, even with the way that you said about reclaiming your name. How did your career journey start? All about that?
I think I'm a recovering poet. That's why.
Hey.
I think in my next life I'm going to be a poet. But yes, how did I find myself here? I think one of the most interesting parts of my journey is I've always thought I don't want to do this. I really just want to do one thing. I want to teach and sit in my cute library. But when I started working way back in 2011, 2012, I was working for this magazine called the Echo Magazine. And one of the most exciting parts of that job was doing events. And it wasn't necessarily for the little parts of the event, but it was okay, how do we create a memorable experience? I I I developed a love for thinking of an event outside of what it's supposed to be and what it could be. And then I had the privilege of working in communications for a while with DSTV, which is like one of Africa's biggest satellite TV networks. And whilst I was there, I had the joy of working with this amazing woman called Aunt Saki. It was not a great relationship in the beginning, but we warmed up to each other and we developed um, a lab of conversation with each other on very specific topics. And she encouraged me to explore what experiences mean to me. And I think from there, I went into advertising, I went into business development, I went into hospitality. And whilst I was in hospitality, working with one of Ghana's premier members clubs, I realized that, huh, a lot of the experiences that I have accumulated work wise have taken me to this one place, hospitality, which is not necessarily the small industry, but this big daunting male dominated industry. And I had the challenge of co-running a club that required specific sets of experience. For a members club, you need something to pull people in, but you also need something to keep people in without necessarily feeling exclusionary. It has to feel aspirational. And at the same time, it also has to feel affordable because we live in a very classist society, but it wasn't cheap. So it challenged me to start thinking of how to do the normal, boring, mundane things in exciting ways. And that was, I would say, the beginning of what we know as Jane Can Do, because it helped me to develop very key skills like just being able to decide which type of people to connect with, which I had always been very good at, but to be able to do it for hundreds of people, to be able to determine that, okay, I think Dina will make great friends with Bumi and they might be able to work on XYZ. It is a skill that I had to hone there because the membership club is about giving value.
Yeah.
And through that, I built the skill and refined the skill. And then the lockdown happened
Oh,
and we
right.
know can be outside. We don't have the right events. We don't have the right accessible type of things. And so the challenge for me became with limited resources, how big can we dream and do something fun and exciting? And that's what I've spent the last 3 years doing. So yeah, that's fun.
You mentioned Jane Can Do, your visionary
Yes.
platform. We need to give that a moment and give
Oh.
hours and talk about it. But you brushed past it so quickly. You're like, that's how Jane Can Do was born. But really,
Oh yes, yes,
oh
yes.
no, Rixa, that's your reputation right there. You are literally the super
Oh
connect.
my goodness.
Let's
I
go.
it's I know. It's every time I hear that word, I get a little bit all warm and gushy inside. I love a good mixed match. You can see from my nails, you can see from my hair and my glasses. I love a good mixed match. I like for things to it's good for different things to occur at the same time. And I had the amazing privilege to meet one of the co-founders of NEXUS, Mark, um, in during work, and I got to pitch for the NEXUS Creative Leadership Program, and
Wow.
I got in. And I said, "You know what? I have no thank you." And I said, "I have no big ideas. I'm not an entrepreneurial person. I don't want to do anything. I just want to be able to help women in the creative sector." And so that is the idea with which I went into the program. And this is a program that equips leaders with a very unique perspective when it comes to business, because I think we live in a world where business is very capital oriented, but also very profit centered. You
Mm.
need capital, you need to make money. And what Nexus was able to give me was the freedom to think of how to run a business without thinking of money first,
Which
how
is
to
crazy,
center
right?
people. I know, because I was like, how am I going to make any money? I don't want to be poor. But I know. But what they do not teach us in the average business program is that when you center people first, the money sort of starts to come in because you're treating everybody fairly. You're being equitable in your outward and inward business values as well. So then, in a sense, you are sharing the wealth that you're making equally. And that is not something that we can minimize, because it's sort of like building a template for when you have a bigger business scope, because you know that you can do it. Um, anyway, back to Jane Can Do It. So whilst when I was in the program, I had the idea to start a platform called All the Women, and All the Women was just initially supposed to be kind of think of like a black book, but for women in the creative sector in Africa. And as the weeks went on, it transformed and transformed and finally became Jane. And at Jane Can Do, the bigger goal is to create a platform that allows all Black women to compete and collaborate on equal grounds. Um, but then when we started to talk about how to build this platform, how to make the tech make sense, how to we live in a continent that is still very much not as internet accessible as most would like to think.
Yeah.
And so how do we even make this web-based products accessible? And in the conversation in the building, I realized something that I was bringing to the table that nobody else was bringing to the table when we have these conversations. It's that I know so many people in the creative sector that are always looking to collaborate because a key focus of my work as an experiential manager is helping you connect with resources that are affordable but also useful. And so I at the end of the program I said, you know what? I know what we're going to do with this. We're going to um help people with whatever they need first, and then we're going to use that to build our platform, which is very important because you always have to build first. I learned that in my Nexus program. And a year later, Jane Can Do has grown beyond my wildest expectations. Um, we are currently helping creatives build strategy, which is
Yeah.
so important because we are in a community that doesn't really have a lot of artist managers or support.
Yeah.
And so having like a good sound strategy or a go-to-market plan, it's so useful for independent artists and creators. And being able to work with creators who don't necessarily have a large budget to come up with things with their scope that works for them, it's such a fulfilling thing. Being able to connect women to other women or non-binary creators that they can work and collaborate with, especially because I'm very big on community. I know that we are all we've got. Um, and as African creators, we're living in a creative economy that profits off us, but
Yeah.
we don't get to make a lot of that money. We're looking at how African creativity is being globally celebrated, but we are still not being given the recognition when it comes to monetary gains. And so to be able to connect two women, two people to each other and say, create something beautiful and profit off it and share. To know that it's possible, that it's possible for us to collaborate and make beautiful art without centering money, without centering profit, without centering capitalism. It's just amazing. Um, I always say I would not recommend it for everybody because it's knowing that money will never be a priority,
Mm.
but always know that the people at the center of it all will make it worth it. And the team is growing. I started with just me, and right now I have 3 people that are working with me.
Wow.
And so I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. So yes, I will try not to gloss over it. Jane Can Do is doing amazing.
Thank you. I love that. That's so much.
Right.
That's so much better. And it's an amazing thing because
Wow.
as a creative and any creative that listens to this, it's a lonely place. You're trying to do
Okay.
everything.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds cheesy, but honestly, Pam, sometimes we do things for the love of doing it. It's not always
That's
about
okay.
money.
And
Exactly.
that's okay.
And
Yeah.
for a super connector plug like yourself,
Ah,
women, especially to be like, hey, I want to do this. This is my vision. And aligning those visions together is honestly phenomenal. So
yeah.
we have to
Yes.
celebrate you for a second there on that. But
Sorry.
you, please, you didn't tell me why you called it Jane Can Do, because you said to me names are very important to you. Why Jane?
Yes.
Who is Jane?
So, I'm gonna give a big shout out to my best friend Padma. This is way years ago. We started a virtual assistance company. This was when I realized that I was not built to be an entrepreneur, by the way.
But you
So
are an entrepreneur, by the way. So you mean a
I
classic
would like
sales entrepreneur? You mean?
fingers crossed. Yes. And we started this virtual assistance business and we went to pitch to her dad, and I can't remember what it was, but somewhere in between, he just paused and he was like, "But that's a really good sentence. Jane can do, like, And I was like, "Oh yeah, like the idea is that when you say Jane Doe, this is global. Everybody knows who a Jane Doe is, an unknown woman or a person that identifies as a woman, and." When we say Jane Doe, we are referring to the average woman. It's kind of like when you say Jack and Jill, you're just
Yeah,
generic.
yeah.
Yes. But for me, it was being able to say, so long as you identify as a Jane, you can do this. But also, there is a Jane for every job. There is a woman, there is a trans woman, there is a non binary person out there that can do any job that you think you need done. And so for me, there is a Jane for every job. And that the name Jane Can Do came from that frustration of just being so completely tired of seeing men's faces everywhere that I go. You will see a team of 12 and there is just one woman. And then you ask, where are the women?
Yeah.
We know that globally there are more women than men. And in most industries, when you look at the numbers, you would find that there are a lot more women in the industry than would like to be acknowledged. Um, and so why do we find it so difficult to hire women for jobs?
Mm-hmm.
Why
Exactly.
is it so difficult? What is the process? What is the interviewing process like? What is the data collection process like? What is the culture of your company like that prevents you from hiring a woman in your business? And so my mission is simple, that there is nothing that no Jane isn't available for. There is a job for every Jane, and there is a Jane for every job. And if you are serious about making money, if you are intentional about building a diverse workforce, your first priority is always to ask, where can I hire more women? And Jane Can Do is going to solve that problem because we are going to build a platform that gives you access to as many women creators in the continent as possible. And you're going to be able to pick from different industries across the creative economy. And you will find a Jane for your job. And so now we are going to be able to say to people, you didn't try hard enough. You didn't look for a Jane. Um, and that is just me trying to self-fulfill my destiny as a super connector.
Super
But
connected.
yes, there is a Jane for every job. Yeah.
And
Mm,
you mentioned that
yes.
creators in Africa, in Ghana as well, are not getting the monetary returns that they deserve. Tell me a bit about that. Like,
No.
how does it work? Because I don't know how it would work. You're in Ghana now, right?
Yes, I'm in Ghana now.
Okay, perfect. So give me an example of what kind of like disparity you see or injustice in terms of like pay or exposure. I just want to know more about that.
Yeah. Um, I, we are in a place where whether we want to accept it or not, we are in the Internet of Things, and so it's very easy to assess whatever whatever question you have. You can have knowledge on that, and there are platforms that are coming up, um, like Monday, platforms like Newcomer, that are showing us that it's possible to be a creative and make money.
Hmm.
For a very long time, we have lived in a society that has told us that creativity doesn't pay. Last year I had a workshop called with a school, with a creative university, for a parents forum on why you should allow your ward or your child to study a creative related course, be it fashion design, be it architecture, be it drawing, be it publishing, just why you should support your ward and what kind of support you can have for them.
Yeah.
And one of the things that kept coming up was that parents don't see the value in a creative education because they don't know how you're going to make money being an artist. And so I began to look into how much money does the creative economy make? Who are the highest earning people in the creative sector? And when you look at those numbers and you compare them to the average Ghanaian designer or the average Ghanaian creative sector worker or arts worker, the disparity is wild.
Mm.
Um, Also, I suppose we cannot discount the fact that it's a forex nation, and so currency weighs worthier in other places than it does here. But the fact that the average creative person in the creative economy does not make more of an average of 4,000 cities a month, when their counterpart in the UK or even in Sweden or in France is making 2, 3 times that per project. Where again, I will give a shout out to platforms like Newcomer that give out £100 supports to artists every month. They choose an artist every month to support them with £100. There is Africa No Filter. But the data on the ground, when you look at the surveys, when you look at the statistics, we are making no money at all, although our ideas are being celebrated globally. You would look at Afrobeats. Um, I'm going to give you an example even of when we look at immigration, just generally how African immigrants are treated in comparison to non-African immigrants. And when you break that down into, okay, how many of those people could be creative sector workers? How many of those could be queer migrants? When you break it down into subsections, you begin to realize that we have no data at all
Right.
on what it means to work in the creative sector. And so that is one of the things that we are also beginning to address at Jane Can Do, on how we can actively collect data on how many people are actively working in the creative economy and how much money they are making. You know, we celebrate people like Poetra Asantua, who have actively shown us that they can make money with poetry and music. And we recognize elders like Ata Edu, or even um, visionary actresses like Juliet Asante, because they have shown us that it is possible to make money from the arts.
Yeah.
But what's it works. We have seen it in the UK. The creative economy is one of the fastest growing economies. And so we know that it works. We know that Berlin and New York are gradually becoming hubs for young creative workers because it's growing the economy there and people are beginning to see it, you know. And so there is hope that we will make money. But the numbers right now, it's very, very difficult to assess. It's very challenging to even be able to say there are 100,000 people that work in architecture, because even though there is an architectural organization, the gatekeeping, the barriers into making it into an architecture as a woman, it's just block by block by block. And so to be even able to assess how many people try to enter into the industry every year but are not able to, we don't have that easily accessible data. So yeah, that, in as much as I would like to give you numbers,
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that the next time that Jane Can Do comes on this Nexus Talks, we will be able to give you numbers because we are actively collating these. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to give numbers, but yes, it's definitely I want to say the disparity just based on a couple platforms that provide resources. It's just the disparity is 2-3 times per project. Yeah.
And that's so huge. Like you just hear these numbers,
Very.
nothing think that's
Yes.
nothing, but 2, 3 times,
Yes.
it's a
Yes.
huge difference. And
Yes.
the reality is, as a creator, as I said, it's such a lonely job. Like most people do it on the side in addition to working a full-time job. So once again, I'm going to give Jane Can Do all its flowers, because creating that
Thank
community
you.
and value for members is honestly priceless. And I have to ask, because it means you're a marketing queen. It's not just the fact that you're a plug.
Oh,
It means you're a marketing and communication queen. So people love to listen
yes.
for the advice and all the amazing kind of ideas that you've picked up on the way. What kind of advice would you give someone who's in a position similar to you and is trying to juggle all of these roles? What would you
Oh
say?
my goodness. Um, one, I think that something I am beginning to embrace, and beginning to carry on into other aspects of my life is, um, don't be afraid to ask questions. Because the thing about marketing and communications is we're saying a lot, but with very few words. And so you need as much information as possible. You need to know this brand inside out just to come up with a single line of copy. You need to know everything about this person that you are representing just to be able to execute one single event. And so you learn to ask questions. You ask questions about everything and every day and for every single thing. And I say apply that to every part of your life. Ask questions. Ask so many questions that people begin to find you irritated.
Annoying.
But the more questions you ask, but the more questions you ask, the more answers you get, the more knowledge you acquire. And knowledge is immeasurable. You cannot measure the worth of knowledge. So ask questions and ask more questions. Yeah.
Anything else? So questions, totally. Anything else to help?
Yes. Um, anything else, I would say one of the things I'm currently enjoying working as the experiential manager for the Nyaniba market, um, is making room for women. And I'm learning that when we say we are creating a female oriented business or we're creating a female safe environment, it's important to look from outside the margins. Um, and so it's important to ask yourself, if I was not this abled person, if I was not this Black woman, if I was not this Black man, if I was not this Black adult, if I was not this white child, if I was not this white, you know, if I hadn't had these experiences, would this still make sense to me? And I've been privileged to work in places that I am allowed to be vocal. And so I am thrilled to work with people that every day allow me to ask questions that make sense. And so I would challenge all employers. I would challenge all business people, found especially creative entrepreneurs, that ask from the margins. Ask yourself who you're overlooking. Ask yourself who you're ignoring. Ask yourself who you're not considering, and find ways to include them in the conversation. We owe it to ourselves as creative entrepreneurs to create an environment that encourages more people to come in. That's the only way that we build the industry and the economy. So bring people in, make it safe, make it fun, make it interesting. Um, and yeah, keep going. You're almost there. It's hard. It's very hard, but you're almost there.
I love how much you're thinking of others as well. So it's so nice to with a purpose, but you're always thinking. So you mentioned all the work you do, and then you're thinking, who's being excluded? Would I have these
Yes.
opportunities? And you love to volunteer as well. We're not gonna look past this. You
Oh, yes, I do. When I can make the time. When I can make
from
this, I
now,
love it. Yeah.
Black Girls Glow
Oh,
story as well.
yes, Black Girls Glow. Black Girls Glow is a sound residency program in Ghana. But we also invite women from outside Ghana, and currently we have a collaborative partnership with Pop Culture Berlin, and so we get some Black women from Germany as well, where we come together and create an album with a social issue in a week. And this year, we were focused on climate activism. And so we came up with an amazing album that celebrates the earth, but also cautions. It's out next month. Fingers crossed. Everybody should listen out for it. I also volunteer with Women's Health Ghana, which supports women with period products. Um, hmm, Period poverty is a big, big problem in our part of the world. And so, with women's health, our goal is to not just make it accessible, but also provide enough information into the universe, starting from our little corner on how important it is to prioritize a woman's reproductive health.
Yeah.
Um, and I also volunteer with Libraries Without Walls. We go into the streets and help some kids to learn how to read. It's a fun experience. It's difficult, challenging. Teachers do not get enough credit.
Amen
But
to that.
yes, but yes, these are three organizations that I volunteer with that I'm so proud of. Also because one of the things that Black Girls Glow does is You're Cared For, which is an outreach program teaching kids about sexual reproductive health and their rights as children. Um, so I try to rest, but I also love to give back. And so these are four organizations that I have come to learn to love,
Mhm.
because volunteering is very hard. But it's such a joy to be able to work with organizations that understand that supporting children and women is important and necessary for the growth of the continent. Um, there's another organization that I am beginning, and we are working together in the next couple of months. It's called the Good Tree. The Good Tree supports children with creative education, and that just gives me so much joy. We don't have enough of such organizations. And so I'm super happy to be partnering with them for a very wonderful project in the future. But yeah, I do love to volunteer, not my time, my brain. And so if there is any organization, yes, yes. And so I turn everything into a happy thing to do. And so I only do the things that I enjoy. And it makes it easy. I think it was on one of the Nexus talks. I think it was with Dami from Dash Events. She said something about how um her work is like a passion project. And I was laughing so hard because I was like, yes, you have to turn everything into a passion if you really want to do it, because it's also about making sure you're resting 7 to 9 hours every day. And so it's making sure that I'm only dedicating my time to the things that bring me the utmost joy, and making sure that there are things I enjoy, and making sure that there are things that I know will leave an impact, making sure that there are things that I want to look back at and say, oh, look, I remember that talk I had with Dina. It was so fun and I really enjoyed that. It's just being able to sit back and say, you know what, I'm taking pleasure in that. That was beautiful work done. Um, and so I try to, make the time, but also rest.
It's why I
Yeah.
love hosting this podcast, because people think that I'm sitting here getting all this information for our lovely listeners. And don't get me wrong, I am. You are a wealth of knowledge, but it always ends up being like a therapeutic talk for me, because
Yeah.
nice, but you've just been saying things that are like slapping me in the
Yeah.
face, because I'm thinking a lot about my purpose and what I'm doing. So it's like the best job ever, being able to talk to people like you.
You have the best job.
I do.
You have the best part.
I
It's the
literally
Big People podcast.
love that. I'm gonna ask them to change the name, by the way. The Big
You
People.
definitely should. That's what it's called.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I could sit here and speak to you for hours, and I genuinely mean this. It's so beautiful to speak to someone who, of course, you are an entrepreneur, whether you want to admit it or not, you are, and you're very good at what you do, but everything you do is rooted from a place of love and care. And it's so gorgeous to see that because it's not something that's common nowadays. So this has been really, really lovely to speak.
So, thank you. It's been amazing being on the pod. It only took me a year. It's okay. I will be back in another year with more updates and
We are
maybe yes, we will. It's such a joy to be a part of the Nexus family, and so yeah, thank you for having me.
no, thank
This
you.
is
And best of luck with everything with Jade Can Do, with your volunteering. And please stay in touch. We'd love to share everything you're up to.
definitely we will do that. All right.
All the best,
Have
Cam. Thank you
a
so
good day.
much.
Bye.
Bye.